Please state your name.
Jack Hunter.
Mr. Hunter, where do you live?
I live in Midtown.
And who do you live with?
I don't live with anyone. My parents are out of state, and I live alone.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm actually an investigative journalist at the Midlands Voice.
What does an investigative journalist do?
Well, usually my job is to uncover the truth behind what I find out. I look beyond what people tell me and find out things for myself.
And what makes for an interesting story?
Anything where the surprising truth is uncovered. You know, you hear what you hear, but you really got to think about it for yourself.
And have you actually gotten any articles of yours published?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of freelance work lately. I wrote a few articles, but I recently got one published at The Voice.
Mr. Hunter, are you familiar with Rocket World?
Yeah, I actually used to work there.
What was the first job you had at Rocket World?
Well, back in 2009, I worked in maintenance. What that really meant was I was a cleanup crew for all the bombers.
So did you get a new job at Rocket World?
Yeah, the next year, not many people come back. I got a bit of a promotion. I was promoted to a floating ride operator.
Can you describe to the jury what a floating ride operator does?
Sure. A floating ride operator's job is just to cover rides for when the regular ride operators can't be around. So they go on break or they have a sick day, and I fill in for them.
And would you have to cover for other ride operators often?
Yeah, almost every day I had to get a new assignment.
So did you become familiar with the operations of every single ride?
Most of them, yeah. I got thrown at the ride and I had to figure things out.
So what kind of training did you receive in order to operate these rides?
We didn't really receive training. We just got put on the ride and we had to figure out the controls for ourselves.
And what were your impression of the rides at Rocket World?
They weren't exactly the best. A lot of them were old, a few of them were in disrepair, and they were all different, so it was really confusing.
Now, Mr. Hunter, in 2010, that's when Haley Floyd, the accountant, was brought in. Is that right?
Yeah.
How did Haley Floyd change the dynamic of the park?
Well, she made things run a lot smoother. Because of her, we were able to talk to her for our assignments, and the frank problems we had was at Long Street. Long Street tended to be a bit edgy, and he was difficult to talk to. Floyd made things easier for us.
Mr. Hunter, do you personally speak with Mr. Floyd often?
Yeah, actually, Miss Floyd was where I got all my ride assignments from. As a floating ride operator, I did a new one every day, and so I go to her.
And when you talk to Ms. Floyd, where did you get your ride assignments from?
In her office, the main office really, where she does all her accounting stuff.
And how often were you in that main office?
Usually once a day in the beginning of the day.
Now, what kind of things did you see in that main office?
Well, besides all of her accounting stuff, they also kept a lot of emission wristbands there. I saw some wristbands that had numbers on them, but then there were also some wristbands that didn't, and that always made me a little suspicious.
Now, how did your work atmosphere at Rocket World, how did it change in the next year?
Things got a lot more tense the next year at Rocket World.
Why were they tense?
Well, Miss Floyd, usually whenever you walked into her office the year before, she was really easygoing, but the next year, she would practically bite your head off. That and Mr. Longstreet was always arguing with Miss Floyd and just being generally ill-tempered.
Now, Mr. Hunter, were you fired from Rocket World?
Yeah, in April of 2012, my last year at Rocket World, I got fired.
Can you describe what happened on April 2012?
Well, I was always curious as why they were always so mean to people who went into the office. So one day when Mr. Floyd and Miss Floyd and Mr. Longstreet weren't around, I went into the office when I wasn't supposed to.
So when you entered the office, what did you see?
Well, I saw a few things. First, I saw a bunch of wristbands that looked like they weren't from the usual distributor that Mr. Longstreet buys them from. You can usually tell just by looking at them. That, and I saw 2 books sitting on Miss Floyd's desk.
Now, Mr. Floyd, did you look inside these 2 books?
Yeah, I actually did. And inside I saw a bunch of math graphs and charts. It was a little confusing. I didn't really understand it.
Now, Mr. Floyd, you're not an accountant, are you?
No, I'm not.
But did you find these two sets of books with graphs? Did you find it odd in any way?
Well, yeah, because on the cover they had similar titles.
Projection? Leading?
What was the question? Did you find these two sets of books odd in any way?
I think technically you're right, so I'll sustain that one, you just rephrase it.
Yes, Your Honor. What were your impressions of the two sets of books?
Well, it was a little strange because on the cover of the books, they had the same title, but one of them had some letters underneath. I'm not sure exactly what. That and the contents of the book were so similar to one another.
So, Mr. Hunter, why were you fired?
Well, because when I was looking at those books, Miss Floyd came back inside the trailer and she saw me looking at the books and fired me on the spot.
Mr. Hunter, during your tenure at Rockerwell, did you get to interact with Whit Bowman?
Yeah, I actually got to talk to Whit a lot during 2012 when I worked there.
Did you work enough with Whit Bowman to discern a character of truthfulness from Whit Bowman?
Yeah,
What was your impression of Whit Bowman?
well, Whit's a really nice guy. He's definitely the kind of guy that you can trust.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.